Hold up over here. When is it Nick Massa? Is that your buddy's name?
Yeah.
When I saw him tweet that video of Drake, I was like, it's beautiful.
Typical Drizzy.
Yeah, very much so. All right. Okay, there we are. Mute myself. There we go. All right, let's get this ball rolling here. Shit, that's not what I wanted. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, and welcome back to the 18th episode of the Inside Out Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Wilson, and joining me again tonight, my good friend Jarrett Hastings, back on to talk some college football and some NFL. Jarrett, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing okay now. The Colts won.
Yeah, that's I figured that was going to be a little bit of a closer game until I heard that Blaine Gabbert wasn't playing, and then as soon as I heard that news, I was like, dude, if we don't beat the damn the Titans, absolutely no way do we deserve to be in the playoffs. And thank God that we did. And I thought I was going to get to go to bed pretty early that night until Andrew Luck decided to throw one of his patented, just mindless interceptions that got returned for 6. And I was like, yep, shit, here we go. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I had work the next day at 5 in the morning. I was, the way the game started out, I was thinking, oh yeah, I might be able to be in bed by 10 o'clock tonight, get plenty of sleep, rest up. Andrew Luck had different things.
Andrew Luck wanted to make sure that he was going to get the viewership that the NFL needed, and kept us all on the edge of our seats until the fourth quarter. So, but we'll get to that here shortly. So we'll start off with college football. Obviously, Bowl Mania has pretty much come to an end. The national championship will be this Monday, January 7th. It'll be Alabama once again taking on the Clemson Tigers, and what we all had anticipated from the beginning of the season being the matchup. We had kind of hoped maybe things would go a little bit differently. For one, I'm okay with Clemson being in there. I'm about sick of Nick Saban and Alabama going 12-0, 13-0 every year and playing for a championship. So, but that's what we got. So we'll take a look back. Some of our picks here. To round out the Bowl Mania. So I went 25-12 in the picks. Jarrett, you went 16-16. I got a few more picks in. I think I picked about 5 games before we did our last episode, before all the bowls kicked off. So, but we got one more. It'll be Alabama and Clemson. So we'll kind of talk about that first. The bowls. One of my favorite bowl games, I'd have to say, is just the drumming that Purdue took at the hand, picking the Boilermakers to even cover after watching that game. To beat by 49 was absolutely insane. So was there a bowl game that just stood out to you that you just loved to absolutely, take in?
Well, I mean, that Purdue one's got to be one of them. I mean, I hardly even watched any. I got started. I was really excited to watch it. I thought it was interesting. Kind of wanted to see how Purdue would match up after the year they've had. And then I think it was 28-0 before in the first quarter still, and I was like, all right, I shut it off. There's another bowl game going on. I had to flip over to that. The Texas-Georgia game, that was a great one. Bevo and Uga getting in at the beginning, that was unreal. I mean, that's why I love college sports. I mean, even the mascots hate each other.
Yep.
But yeah. To me, I mean, it wasn't really much of a great game, but I enjoyed watching Georgia get rolled.
Yeah, no, that was my second choice. Just the fact that I got to say okay, cool, hook 'em a whole lot, and then it's not that I don't like Georgia, but I just think that they've had so many opportunities to actually prove themselves, and they just fell flat on their face. I can't tell you how many times. And then they talked about how they should have been in the playoff and this and that, and should have been over Notre Dame, or whatever the result of the Clemson game would have been. They would have said that regardless. And just to watch them come out and get steamrolled by Texas and have
they ran their mouth after everything was said and done. But you don't get beat by 20 to LSU, you're in.
Exactly. And just having Sam Ellinger just come out and just whoop them. I mean, those dudes played some football. I was really impressed with how they looked, and they were kind of up and down during the year. They lost to Maryland, and they beat Oklahoma. Then they lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship, and man, they look good. And I'm eager to see how Texas looks next year. Like Sam Ellinger said, he's hey, Longhorn Nation, we're back. And it just gave me cold chills. It was so awesome. And the whole we're back thing, with the movement with Indiana basketball back in 2012 and 13. And after that is kind of like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But that's always cool to see, the kids have, moments like that. It was cool to watch. So, but yeah, so that was easily the two top bowl games for me. I think, looking back at the college football playoff semifinals, one game didn't go as I expected, and then the other game kind of did. So with, Alabama and Oklahoma, so we'll start there. Alabama almost kind of looked human to me for a little bit. I mean, Oklahoma took a little bit of time to get going. I think if Oklahoma doesn't come out so flat-footed in that game, they actually have a shot to win. But they got off to a slow start, which they couldn't afford, and obviously the rest is history. But I think Alabama's gettable, and I think we're going to see that Monday night against Clemson. So, when it comes down to that game, I think the deciding factor for me was, like I said, Oklahoma just didn't get off to a good start, and I didn't really think they had a chance after that. I mean, is that how you viewed that football game, or what do you think was really the deciding factor there?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Oklahoma getting off to such a slow start, I mean, give credit to Alabama for doing that. I mean, honestly, I think Bama might have, after they went up 28-0, I think they may have just lost some focus, which is why you saw Nick Saban just completely pissed off there while they're in the middle of the blowout. But a couple of things, there's some crazy stats that I'd seen about this game. So Kyler Murray, his first completion came whenever they were down 21-0 already, before Kyler Murray had even completed a single pass. And at another point, Bama led in offensive yards, 191 to nothing. So, I mean, when you're playing, if you're ever anyone who plays Bama, you understand, like, you need some things to go your way. You need some breaks. And, I mean, when you get off to that kind of start against Bama, I mean, you've pretty much sealed your fate before the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's probably, I thought they looked a little bit human, but I didn't get. I mean, we were out at a Christmas dinner, so I didn't get home until I think after they were down 21-0, and then Oklahoma drove down and scored a touchdown. So I didn't get to see the first three touchdowns, which is probably plays into my mindset a little bit. But yeah, Alabama, they're a machine, but I think that they're gettable, and I think hopefully Clemson can do that, because I like Dabo Swinney. I don't have much to root against him for, so hopefully they beat Alabama, because I can't stand those fools. So, so we'll switch over to, the other semifinal, one that probably broke your heart a little bit. In Clemson took down Notre Dame 30-3, and it was odd because, obviously Trevor Lawrence is really good, but Notre Dame was really good as well, but they just did not look like themselves. And I don't know if the moment got to him. I mean, obviously Ian Book's kind of, first year player, things like that, obviously in meaningful minutes and meaningful games. So I don't know really what to think of, how Notre Dame played. I mean, is there anything that caught your eye to really why they kind of just came out flat and never recovered?
Well, offensively, I think really you just boil it down to Ian Book and his. He's a guy I didn't worry about him in the big moment going into it. We saw him in the Citrus Bowl last year, come in at half. Notre Dame needed points. They were down 8 in the fourth quarter. He came back, had 2 big drives, ended up winning the game for the Irish. Close games throughout the year where he had to come through in the end, and he did. So I was not worried about him showing up in the big moment, but clearly I should have been, because he wasn't good. I mean, they were getting pressure on him, as Clemson does, but that's something you need to expect. And he was, you go back and look, and he was missing open receivers. It wasn't just all Clemson defense. I mean, obviously, give them credit; they had a great game. But I mean, Ian Book was not himself. Defensively, I thought they did really good as long as Julian Love was on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Julian Love sat out the whole second quarter, didn't touch the field, out with a head injury until after halftime. And so I'll give you Trevor Lawrence's numbers. His numbers, the complete game, he threw for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns the whole game. In the second quarter, when Julian Love was off the field in the locker room, he threw for 229 yards, 3 touchdowns, was 13 of 15. So 98 more yards through first, third, and fourth quarter. He only threw for 98 more yards than he did in that second. And those 3 touchdowns he threw, 2 of them were over Devontae Vaughn, who is Julian Love's, that's, consensus All-American Julian Love cornerback, Notre Dame's best player they've got. He was his replacement. So he had some big shoes to fill. And then the other touchdown, if you go back and look at it, Notre Dame safety Alohi Gilman, it was on him, but what he was doing was he was cheating to Devontae Vaughn's side. So he was overcompensating for that loss of Julian Love, which allowed Clemson to go over the top of him and score the touchdown. So that, you lose a guy like Julian Love, and it was astronomical. And it's just something Notre Dame couldn't find their way back from with the offensive woes.
Yeah, obviously Clemson, saw a void in Notre Dame's defense, a very big void, and they took advantage of it. And unfortunately, those types of things happen, especially when you have an All-American cornerback like Julian Love. I mean, you could probably put that guy out on an island and expect him to win most matchups or at least be competitive. So, yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate break for Notre Dame. But I was just disappointed in their offense. I figured Book and Dexter Williams would be able to, at least put some points on the board to keep it within, if they can get a stop or two. And,
Yeah, Dexter Williams, I think his disappointing performance was more because of the game flow.
Mm-hmm.
You get down 20 to 3, 23 to 3 at half.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really rely on running the ball against a team like Clemson. After that, you got to go through the air for the points.
Right. And after the first quarter, I thought, hey, look, Notre Dame survived. They're probably going to, they got through the first quarter. They took a punch in the mouth. So once you kind of get over that initial, the jitters and nervousness and whatever, it's kind of like, all right, I can settle in and play football. And unfortunately, they just never got going. But, as a fan, you're disappointed that you come out and have a showing like that on a national stage in such a big game. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame had a stellar season, a season like people like I, who cheer for a very, very mediocre football program, are jealous of year in and year out. So, a great season. Hopefully, Notre Dame can build on it and come back and have a really good year and, maybe make some more plays and see what happens. But, I think this gives them incredible recruiting momentum, and hopefully that'll, help them out in the future.
Yeah, let's hope. Obviously a very, very, very successful season. I'm completely pleased with it. Ending was a nightmare, but the rest of the season was a dream. And let's just hope that Brian Kelly doesn't get snatched up by any NFL teams, and he stays with the Irish, because I really think he's starting to pull it together and figure it out. He's got an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator there who really, really want to be there. He's got a great recruiting staff in place. He's really starting to learn how to recruit people to Notre Dame, which isn't the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully he sticks around, because losing him that's worst possible scenario for Notre Dame, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if he would actually make that leap to the NFL. I've seen that he's been linked to one job, and that was the Buccaneers. But man, that's like a whole different ball game. You've kind of cemented yourself in South Bend, and at the end of the day, like you said, everybody's going to remember that last game, the way it ended. But you have to remember the 12 wins that came before it, because it was just a stellar season. So yeah, hopefully he stays in South Bend. And it, like I said, I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but it's fun to watch them when they play. They're always on national television. It's just the brand. It's just like Indiana basketball and things like that. It's just a brand that you enjoy to watch. So we'll move on from that and look at the title game here. So it's Bama, Clemson, round 4. It's almost like Rocky IV at this point. So, can Bama actually lose? I think they can. I think they're vulnerable in some areas. I think obviously, their kryptonite has always been a quarterback, much like Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson, that can run and throw. I don't know that Lawrence is quite the runner that Deshaun Watson was, but he can make the throws, and he's proven that. And they've got some playmakers on the outside, so I think Bama is. I mean, this is going to be in a really good game. And then obviously Clemson's going to be without Dexter Lawrence. So, what would your keys be for Clemson? Obviously, seeing them up close last week, what would your keys be for them to beat Alabama on Monday?
I mean, Clemson, you kind of have to concentrate on making Bama one-dimensional. You're not going to beat Alabama if they're able to do what they want offensive or through the air and on the ground. And honestly, I think your best bet at beating them is which is crazy, but I think it's force them to attack you on the ground, which is never the case dealing with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
The old tale is Alabama to beat you through the air. With Tua this year, seems like he'll be fine heading into the national championship game, but the way how he can throw the ball, I mean, I know Oklahoma's defense isn't very good, but he still threw 318 yards, 4 touchdowns against them, and the whole game just looked so easy to him as it has through most of the season. Clemson, I think they need to force Alabama to attack them on the ground, and I think Clemson needs to go at Alabama with a balanced attack. They've got to keep Alabama's defense honest because they've got a lot of talent on this.
Yeah, they definitely do, and I think with Trevor Lawrence, they've got to get some big plays, and they got to make Alabama play defense for long stints and kind of wear them down, and hopefully Clemson can get some stops. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence won't be playing again with the failed drug test, which seems odd. Just impeccable timing on that part, but I think the other big story is obviously Tua Tagovailoa's ankle. How does that been? And they were talking about on ESPN earlier how he's just resting constantly. He's sleeping with like some sort of cold chamber type device on his ankle to really bring down the swelling or prevent the swelling. So, I mean that's a big time issue to have, because I honestly don't think that Alabama can win this game if Jalen Hurts is quarterback, because I don't think they can generate enough offense to keep up with Clemson if that's the case. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, if Tua can't play, that plays right into the hands of what I just said. I believe Clemson needs is for Alabama to be one-dimensional and for that to be on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tua can't play, then you got Jalen Hurts coming in, primary running quarterback. Say Clemson gets off to a quick start and gets a nice lead ahead of them, and then Alabama's forced to put the ball in Jalen's hands, which I know it worked out for him against Georgia, but that wasn't. It's another one of those situations where they're not game planning for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, I mean, with Tua's status, they're definitely game planning for Jalen. So I think if Jalen comes in the same situation, Tua's hurt, he's got to come in and pull him back in it. I don't think he has as much success because the game planning that Dabo Swinney and Brent Venables get on.
Yeah, I think Brent Venables is obviously a big key. He's kind of like a maniac on the sidelines, but he can coach a defensive unit, that's for sure. So, I think that's a big key. I ultimately, we'll talk about this in a minute, but I think that Clemson, they get the deal done. All right, who are you going with? You going with Clemson or Bama?
Oh man, that kind of went back and forth on this one, but I think I'm going to go with Bama. It's hard to go against. I mean, it's close. I give the coaching edge. I give to Alabama. Quarterback edge. I give to Tua. Defensively is like neck and neck, those two teams. I think Clemson actually might be a little better defensively. But yeah, it's hard for me to go against Alabama, especially. I mean, I honestly think this might be the best Alabama team I've ever seen, and it's all because of Tua.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because usually you've got like a an offensive manager at quarterback for them, like an AJ McCarron, someone like that, or someone who's a primary runner like Jalen Hurts. And this year, I mean, you've got Tua Tagovailoa, and that dude can sling the ball just as good as any other quarterback in the nation. And I mean, he's still got some athleticism to him also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it should be a great game. I don't understand what college football is trying to do. They're playing the game out in Santa Clara in Levi Stadium, and I've seen that there's just been some severe drop in ticket prices, and I don't understand. Like, go play it at the Rose Bowl or something. I mean, that Levi Stadium has not been a success as much as far as it is now, and you're trying to do that. And I understand what college football is trying to do. They're trying to get the New Year's Eve semifinals to kind of be primetime television, and that's kind of a lot of people still look forward to New Year's Day's bowls, and so I don't know. Hopefully it's a good atmosphere, but I think they should try to stick to traditional like bowl game sites. But nonetheless, so before we move on to Colts Texans and the least surprising news, Alabama has a new fan. Happens to be your favorite rapper Drake, who also cheers for the Yankees, Duke, the Dallas Cowboys, and used to cheer for the Miami Heat before LeBron left. So, and it's sad because actually I kind of like Drake as a musician. Some of his music's good. Some of his lullaby stuff drives me nuts. But, bro, like, you're from Canada, go cheer in the CFL or something. I mean, stop bandwagon hopping.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I mean, I do. I like some of Drake's music. Some of it I don't. Some of it I do. But yeah, man. I mean, you've got to. He's at least stayed true to the Raptors, but it's not like they've been having bad years.
Mm-hmm.
I bet they missed the playoffs one year, he'd be the first one off the bandwagon. I mean, you said Alabama, Duke, the Yankees, Miami Heat,
the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys. Come on,
Kentucky.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. It's on and on.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but it's just what Drake does. So.
You know how he warmed up that once with was it Kentucky?
It was Kentucky. Yeah, he did it like their Midnight Madness.
Yeah. I think Alabama needs to put him on the field and let him return a punt.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Here, yeah, catch this and try to run it back 20 yards and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll put the college games behind us. So I went with Clemson. You going with Alabama. So we'll see who's right and who's wrong about that come Monday night. So now looking forward, one thing that we can both agree on is the Indianapolis Colts. And man, dude, what a turnaround. They started 1-5. And obviously everybody was talking about the decision against the Houston Texans at home. It was in overtime. Frank Reich went for it kind of around the midfield mark. They did not obviously reach the line of gain on fourth down, and Houston drives and kicks a field goal to win. And everybody's making a big deal of it, this and that. If they would have tied, they'd have a better playoff position. Well, here we are. Colts are in the playoffs for the 6th seed. In the NFL, to me, seeding does not matter. You're in. That's all that matters. And then it's anybody's game from there. So the Colts play at Houston 4:35 on Saturday on ABC or ESPN. And I'm excited. And it's been a long time since I've been this excited about a Colts team, but just the way Chris Ballard has built this team up and the way they've played, especially in the last 10 games of the season, minus that loss to Jacksonville down there in Florida. I'm excited for Saturday. So what are your thoughts on the Colts regular season?
Well, going into it, I honestly, I figured as long as Andrew Luck was back and healthy, then I was expecting somewhere around 500, 8-8, 7-9, somewhere on that line. Because last year the Colts they were leading in I think 8 fourth quarters, and they ended up blowing, or maybe 9 fourth quarters, and they blew 8 of those leads. So I'm thinking, with Andrew Luck, that doesn't happen. So that was my impression going into it. And I felt like we got a lot better through the draft and through just acquisitions that Chris Ballard made. So I was expecting a pretty decent season. But yeah, after that 1-5 start, I'm thinking, man, maybe that USA Today predicted us to have only 2 wins was right. But you look at this whole roster and the way that Ballard has just completely overhauled it. Andrew Luck, with his success, looks just like the same Andrew Luck as before the shoulder injury. I mean, and Frank Reich coming in, Matt Eberflus with the things that he's done with that defense. I mean, that's the fact that we've got a great offensive line, a reliable running game, and a great defense makes me feel very comfortable heading into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like in center or behind center.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's, he's a big key. And I think obviously a lot of people really kind of projected the season based on the unknown of his health. And, I'm a big optimist when it comes to my sports teams. I always have high expectations, or I always believe that they're going to do well. And, the last 3 years have been rough, but Andrew Luck being back and he's thrown for over 4,300 yards. I mean, the dude has been lights out. He's had a couple hiccups, but he didn't play for a year, and he had to get over a mental block, and he's definitely done that. So, but as we always must when it comes to Andrew Luck, we have to talk about Skip Bayless. Dude drives me absolutely insane. And today he made headlines because he says that he would take Deshaun Watson over Andrew Luck any day of the week. Now, look, Deshaun Watson, I like the guy. He's not a bad football player. He's actually really good. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. But to me, I think Skip just has this thing with Andrew. I think if Andrew Luck played for the Cowboys, he'd be like the next Joe Namath to Skip. But the fact that he plays for the Colts and he was always on RG3's train, it's just like I almost think he does it on purpose, which I'm sure he does for ratings and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I couldn't be happier that he wanted Deshaun Watson because I think this just adds more fuel to the fire. And I mean, the Colts are always pretty decent in Houston, anyways, and I think this gives them even more, something to think about.
Yeah, I think this is the same Skip Bayless that said he'd rather have RG3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was like 2 ACL injuries in, and he had still said he'd rather have RG3.
Yeah.
So yeah, Skip Bayless is high off his ass. He's looking for ratings. He's looking for clickbait. He's just everything that's wrong with sports media, political media. Just like makes his living off clickbait, and that's about it.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like Skip Bayless and his TV show that I won't watch because he's just atrocious. So, but back to more on the field. So the Colts and Texans, they split the season series. Each team won on the road, and obviously, as we discussed, that infamous game where Frank Reich goes for it on 4th and 2 or whatever it was and couldn't capitalize, and that catapulted to the Texans to a 9-game win streak. And the funny thing is that win streak started and ended with the Indianapolis Colts. And, as T.Y. Hilton does in Houston at NRG Stadium, he goes off, and it's insane. Like so far in both games this year, regular season, he's had 13 receptions for 314 yards. In 7 career games in Houston in NRG Stadium, he has 41 receptions, 933 yards, and 7 touchdowns. That's 7 games. That's almost 6 receptions a game, easily over 100 yards and a touchdown per. He owns real estate in Houston. He owns real estate in that stadium. Every Texans fan, and obviously he's got an injury bug, but he's going to play and he's going to be ready. So I expect big things out of Ty this Saturday. Who do you think is the most important player outside of T.Y. Hilton for the Colts on Saturday?
Yeah, before I get to that, I meant to touch on that 4th down call at the first meeting between Colts and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that, I mean, I was all on board with that call. I thought it was a great call. Like we mentioned earlier, the Colts started 1-5, so at that point when they're playing Houston, and you don't expect to go on 8-9 game win streak,
mm-hmm.
whatever it was, or 8 of 9, whatever, and so at that point, you're trying to build a culture within the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going for it on a 4th down, a coach trusting his players to make the play to go for the win instead of hunt it and settle for a tie. I think that goes a long way with building a culture within the locker room. But yeah, to go back, said who I thought was the biggest key player for the Colts.
Yeah. Yep. Outside of Ty,
I'll give you a position group, the offensive line.
There you go.
I mean, they've got to hold off J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney. That offensive line is going to be huge. But I mean, luckily for the first time in a long time, I feel pretty comfortable with them being able to get the job done against a good defensive line. The play calling helps a lot too. The fact that they don't really allow Andrew Luck to stay back in the pocket very long. They want to keep him healthy. But I mean, when you've got dogs up front like Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith, I like our chances against that good defensive front.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of piggyback on the whole fourth down play call, I think it's a great decision. I hate that the NFL, is okay with games ending in ties. I know there's people out there that love it, and I just can't stand it. Someone should win and someone should lose. And I think that Coach Wright going for that just explains his MO and all you need to know. And obviously, I know a lot of people have talked about it, but that was really a turning point for the Colts this season because we're not going to settle for that. And I think that was awesome to see. So I was all for it. And I know there was people out there that weren't, but if you're that kind of guy, I don't really want you on my team. So I was really glad that he did that. So
I mean, if you're just concerned about this season only, then yeah, maybe it would have been a better decision to punt it and settle for the tie. The Colts will be playing this game at home if that was the case.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're thinking big picture. Like I said, at that time, you don't expect your team to go to the playoffs and have a shot.
Right.
The Colts were able to make a run, and here we are. But at that time, and you're expecting. I mean, you just want to give the mental edge to your players and know that your coach is behind you. It's been a rough season, but I still believe we can pull these wins out.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you touched on the offensive line as being the key to the game for the Colts. I think that's very, very true. I'm all for watching Quentin Nelson just absolutely pound cake dudes, and I want to see him do it to Clowney. I don't know that J.J. Watt ever lines up on his side of the line. I don't think he does. He always plays, if you're on the D, he always plays left end. But I'm all for watching. I mean, just the what's that guy's name? Is it Brian Baldinger or something like that on Twitter? And he always plays Quentin Nelson highlight reel Monday morning. He's just teabagging dudes. I love it.
Hell yeah, teabags every.
Yeah.
The dude must be from London because he's teabagging all the time.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, that dude is like my favorite football player, and I wish I would have known more about him when he was at Notre Dame because I'm sure he was just a joy. A joy to watch, and I love it. I just love him. Just put people on the ground and just drag his nuts across their face. I love it. It's awesome. I mean, just the way he plays football, it gets me so pumped up. So, but yeah, I think that's a very important position group. I think the defense has to come to play. Obviously, Darius Leonard is big time. I think the corners and the safeties, they have to be ready because I think as long as we can keep DeAndre Hopkins in check, I think you're in a good spot to win. And I'll be interested to see if they spy Deshaun Watson on. I know they play Tampa too quite a bit. So, but I think the defensive line's a big one too. Really, that side of the ball. If you can get some pass rush, but contain him just a little bit, and make him make some bad decisions, and we'll be in for a good game. So, prediction on score for Saturday. What do you think?
I mean, I see this one being like a 28-24 type of game. Both defenses are pretty good. I don't expect them to be up in the 30 range. I mean, you got great playmakers at quarterback for both teams. I think they'll make something happen. Yeah, give me I'll say 28-24 Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm right along those lines. I was thinking like 31-27, maybe even 31-24. I think they win by at least 4. I just think that Andrew Luck's the difference. Ultimately, I think he makes big plays. And maybe he goes on a game-winning drive. Indy's down 27-24, and he goes down the field and scores a touchdown. And we're on to Kansas City, so that will be certainly a fun one. So to wrap up the show, I wanted to get some Super Bowl picks. Basically, a team from each conference who you think will win, and then we'll do wild card picks too, and then we'll kind of revisit those. That way we can laugh at each other and see how wrong we were. So let's do the wild card first. Obviously, both are on the Colts. Interesting game, Seahawks-Cowboys. They play Saturday night after the Colts-Texans game. I'm not sure how I feel about this one because I think Dallas is a little dangerous, but I think Seattle's really figured something out just with the the turnover in personnel, and they just had to change things up. So, and there's always kind of that that bad voodoo with Romo and Seattle, and just the fact that it's the Cowboys. So I'm going to go Seahawks. We're not playing lines or anything. It's just straight up pick them who you think is going to win. So I'm going to go Seattle in that one.
Yeah, I agree. I also think Seattle. Close one. I don't feel super strong about the pick. I think it's going to be a good game, but coaching edge, Seattle, quarterback edge, Seattle. Dallas's defense is the thing that makes me second guess myself. They've got some real playmakers on that defense. They're aggressive. They're fun. They're a fun defense to watch.
Yeah.
I just wish they were in a different uniform. But,
right. At least Jalen Smith, right?
Yeah. But at least, but I'll take Seahawks. Yeah, maybe Seahawks.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to root for the Cowboys. A, I just don't like the Cowboys, and B, that's Skip Bayless's team, and obviously we visited his dumbass earlier. So, so the other game in the AFC wild card, you got Chargers, which I hate how the NFL does it. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but to have that team with the record that they have to fly all the way to the East Coast and not have a home game, but regardless, so they fly to Baltimore. Baltimore did beat the Chargers in Los Angeles earlier in the year, and I think, man, that Ravens defense is something. And the Chargers have seen Lamar Jackson already, so I think they kind of have an idea of how to play them. But I don't trust Phillip Rivers, and that's kind of odd, saying that against a rookie quarterback that he'll be facing. But he's never done anything. He's went to one conference championship game, and he's just never really won the big one, kind of a big game to get him over the hump. So I'm going to go Ravens at home. I think just Lamar Jackson and that defense and just the ability to play at home and have the Chargers fly all the way east, I think that's, good enough to get them a W.
Yeah, I'm going to go Chargers on this one. I prefer Phillip Rivers over Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, I'm still not too sure what to think of. I think he's been really, really good so far. They've got a great defense. They've got, they beat you by running the ball on you, which is the recipe in the playoffs. But I think the Chargers may have the most talented roster in the NFL. And a guy like a veteran like Phillip Rivers. I know that the Ravens really gave him fits last time, but I mean, they've got film on this. They've got film on Lamar Jackson, the system they run. I'll take the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. I don't know, man. Something about Phillip Rivers. I don't know, something about him. So, and then the last wild card game, you got Eagles and Bears. I'm going to go with the Bears on this one. I think the Eagles are dangerous, though. Very, very dangerous. With Nick Foles. I mean, we know what he did last year. I don't know. Chicago's been hot. They got Khalil Mack. Defense has been playing well, and they can run the ball. And I think Mitch Trubisky just does just enough to get them a win. And just the Eagles have been too inconsistent for me this year. Obviously, the Super Bowl, the high coming off of that win. But, you got to play in Chicago in the cold. I'm taking the Bears.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Bears on this. I think Matt Nagy might be the best play caller in the NFL. The way that he's able to, because Trubisky's not the most talented quarterback out there.
No,
but Matt Nagy, he really, really knows how to design a play for him to succeed. What do you guys say about the Bears defense that we don't already know?
Yeah,
they're unreal, and the home field advantage at Chicago. I mean, that's a real thing with that weather and that ruckus crowd. I trust the Bears a lot more than I do the inconsistent Eagles that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Philly is cold this time of year. I know they play in cold weather, but dude, you're right there on the lake. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy, and you have to try to run the ball on that defense. And I don't think that Philly can do it. I mean, they don't have LeGarrette Blount anymore. They don't have somebody that can just pound the rock consistently. And the Bears do. Former Hoosier Jordan Howard, he's had a great season. So I think they find a way to win. That should be a great game, though. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Philly wins just because of the up and down, but I'm going with the Bears in this one. So, all right, so we'll put those picks in and we'll revisit those next week and see where we're at on those. So Super Bowl wise, I've thought a lot about this, and I think with the AFC, I think it's one of the wild card teams that make it to the Super Bowl because Kansas City always finds a way to flop, and I think New England's not New England. And I think you're going to see a lot of shifting and personnel and stuff over the offseason with New England. So I think we see a rematch of the 2009 Super Bowl. Bold prediction. I think it's Colts and Saints. I think it's Colts and Saints. I'm telling you, because the Colts have been rolling. Luck is hot. If they can just stay healthy, I think it's either Colts or Ravens, but I'm going to go with the Colts.
All right. Well, I hope your prediction. I really hope your prediction's right.
Me too.
The Colts are to get there. They've got to go into Kansas City, and get a win on the road there. Honestly, it's crazy to say, but I would rather see the Colts go to New England.
Yeah.
Now with the weapons, I mean the lack of weapons that Tom Brady has to deal with right now. So I don't think the Colts are going to get there because I don't see them getting through Kansas City. Outside game against Mahomes and all the weapons that he has at his disposal. So I'm going to go. Saints out of the NFC and Chiefs out of the AFC.
That's a good pick. That would make for a fun Super Bowl. Honestly, I think the Saints would win that one just because the defense. They have a big upper hand on the defensive side of the ball than what the Chiefs do. So, but yeah, so you heard it here first. Colts Saints or Chiefs Saints. So I'm not going to say put your mortgage on it, but do what you got to do. So, yeah. So, well, hey man, it's been a blast. Again, we should do this on a regular basis for sure. I know we were talking Notre Dame earlier, and Junebug got a little upset, so which is rightfully so. I can't blame her at all. So, but yeah, dude, this is a blast, and we'll definitely have to revisit this next week and see how god awful wrong we were on our picks. So,
yeah, man, absolutely. I can't wait to touch back on it and have a completely different outlook on the way the playoffs are going to fold out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, everybody listening in, I appreciate you hanging out here with us on the Inside Out podcast, and we will be back with you soon. So long. All right, buddy. I got that recording ended. So that was fun, dude. I appreciate it. This is we should do this on the regular.